On February 25, 1957, a young boy was found dead inside of a cardboard box. He was lying face down with his arms crossed over his chest. A blanket had been placed over his body, and he was wearing only a baseball cap that read Seagulls. But despite the fact that the box had been placed next to a busy road, no one had heard a thing. For over 6 decades, the boy remained unidentified, and the case grew colder and colder. That was until 2022, when investigators were able to use modern technology to identify the child who had been dubbed the boy in the box. So how exactly did they find out who he was? And why was he really put in that box all those years ago? It was around a.m. on February 25, 1957, when a woman named Helen Viola was walking along Susquehanna Road in Philadelphia. She said she was walking home from her auntie's house after having her hair done when she saw something strange sitting by the side of the road. At first, she thought it might have been an unusually shaped box or a large suitcase. But when she got closer, she realized that it was neither of these things. Instead, what she had found was a wooden box, roughly the size of a small suitcase, with a hole cut out of the top. And peering through the hole, she could see what she described as a pair of crossed-out legs. When police arrived at the scene, they were shocked by what they found. Inside the box was the lifeless body of a young boy. There was no clothing on the child, and his hair had been recently cut, suggesting that he hadn't been living on the streets for very long. It also appeared as if someone had taken great pains to conceal the boy's identity, even going so far as to wrap his body in a blanket. Despite the efforts made by whoever put the box there, though, it wasn't hard for the police to estimate the child's age. They believed he was between 4 and 6 years old. As the police searched the area where the box had been found, they also uncovered a pair of black shoes that had been placed alongside the road. One shoe had the name Buster written inside. But despite the discovery of the boy's shoes, there were no missing persons reports that seemed like a match. In fact, there were no missing persons reports that matched the boy's description at all. Now that the police had recovered the body, they needed to figure out who this child was. But since he didn't have any identification on him, and no one had reported him missing, this proved difficult. To start, the police asked the public for help. They distributed flyers with the child's picture, hoping someone would recognize him and come forward with information. But despite the massive manhunt, the boy remained unidentified. Then the police turned to another tactic. They released a composite sketch of what the boy might have looked like, but this too proved fruitless. Finally, they released a photograph of the boy, which soon ended up on the front page of every major newspaper in the country. Again, nothing. With no leads coming in, the police began to piece together what might have happened to the unidentified child. Their theory was that the boy may have been the victim of a legal adoption. This was a common practice during the 1950s, when people would make money by stealing children and selling them to couples who couldn't have kids. But as the months passed and the investigation continued, the police grew less convinced of this theory. There simply wasn't enough evidence to support it. In the end, the police were never able to solve the case, and the boy was buried in a cemetery in Philadelphia. The city held a funeral for him, and thousands of people showed up to pay their respects. But still, no one came forward with information. Fast forward to 2022, the case had gone cold, and most people had forgotten about it. But a group of forensic genealogists were determined to solve the mystery. They took samples of the boy's DNA and uploaded it to a website called GEDmatch, which contains genetic information about millions of people. After searching through the database, they found a possible match. The person who had submitted their DNA to GEDmatch was a distant relative of the boy's, and they were willing to talk to the police. With the help of this new lead, the police were able to track down the boy's parents. They were elderly at this point and living in Florida. The police didn't reveal the parents' names, but they did say that both of them were still alive. The family had known about the investigation into the boy in the box for many years, but they had kept their distance out of fear. Now that the cat was out of the bag, though, the family began speaking out. One of the boy's cousins told reporters that the family had gathered for a Christmas Eve dinner shortly after the boy's body was found. They had discussed the possibility that the child in the box could be one of theirs, but they had decided to wait for the police to come to them with the news. Another cousin said that everyone had always wondered what had happened to the boy in the box, but no one had ever dared to hope that they would find out. "You always hoped and prayed it wasn't your brother," the cousin said, "but now we know. We know his name, but not his story." So what happened to the boy? His name was Joseph Augustus Zarelli, and he was born in 1953. But other details surrounding his death remain unclear. There are many questions that still need to be answered. For example, how did he die? Who killed him and why? And perhaps most importantly, why did his own family abandon him? Unfortunately, it seems as though these questions may never be answered. No one has been charged in connection with Joseph's death, and there are no public suspects. Still, the family is hopeful that one day the truth will come out. "I just want to know how he died," one of Joseph's cousins said. Was it an accident, or was it on purpose? While we may never know exactly what happened to Joseph, we can take comfort in the fact that he is no longer unidentified. Thanks to the work of those forensic genealogists, his name has finally been revealed and his story has finally been told. But what do you think happened to Joseph? Was he the victim of a legal adoption, orphanage abuse, domestic crime, or something else entirely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all of our latest content. As for me, I can't help but wonder what the parents were thinking when the police came to tell them that their son had been found dead all those years ago. How could they have lived with the guilt for so long? Were they ashamed? Did they try to hide their faces when they met with the police? And what did they say when the police finally revealed the boy's name? Did they admit that it was their son? I guess we'll never know. Joseph's story is a sad one, but it is also a reminder that there are still good people in this world who are working to solve cold cases and bring closure to families. The forensic genealogists who worked on this case didn't do it for the money or the fame. They did it because they wanted to help solve a mystery that had baffled police for decades. In a way, Joseph's story is also a story of hope. Hope that even in the darkest of times, good can prevail. Hope that even when all seems lost, there is still reason to keep going. Hope that even when it seems like the truth will never come out, it somehow always finds a way. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think happened to Joseph? Do you think his parents were involved in his death? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.